So, Allison, you were the costume designer on Grace and Frankie. You've been with the show since the very beginning. I wonder, 4 seasons in, are you still able to find new designs, new things, or have you kind of settled into a groove by now?
Well, we definitely have a rhythm or groove, and I definitely have the stores that I use, and I still use a lot of the same stores, but there's always new merchandise, and I do make some of their pieces. So I have been making, I mean, I think I've kind of amped up and made more. I make the shirts for Jane, and I've continued to make more and more of those, I think, to keep it fresh. So also, I don't know, but finding the stores, and since they're a little bit, they're a little older demographic, and finding the stores and keeping with the stores, I think, is also real for their characters. Women that age, I think, settle into a vibe and a look. And I mean, I always say anyone over 40 has somewhat of a uniform.
Right.
And they kind of end up sticking with it. I mean, it just happens. So yeah, we keep it fresh. We just have a lot of good jewelry, keeping it interesting. Never repeat crystal.
Mm-hmm. Well, take us back to the very beginning and what your ideas were for the show and how those have evolved over time.
Well, I mean, the ideas in the beginning were, to make sure Skydance really wanted to make sure, for one thing, that the minute you saw these ladies, that the two mains, two biggies, that there was really distinctive character differentiation at first glance. Like, you could really tell the difference. And it feel like polar opposites, who like then come together and learn from one another. And so we really wanted to go outside of like typical stereotypes of like a bohemian woman or like a hippie lady. So I looked to women artists, because I felt like Frankie's an artist, and I wanted everything she wore to feel very unique and not pedestrian hippie lady in any way. So everything she has to either feel like she found it on a travel or she made it, maybe. And I was really greatly influenced by my own mother-in-law, whose mother was Dorothea Lange, who traveled a lot, had a ton of jewelry from everywhere all over the world, which is where the jewelry element came from. And then Grace was somewhat my own mother, and all her friends, and like those classy ladies that kind of always have everything just right. And her color palette was like, for Grace's color palette, it was like anywhere from white to black and anywhere in between. So it was like pewter, cream, beige, gray, any of those colors. And for Frankie, we had the colors of like the Santa Fe sunset, so she was like vibrant. So we left them that way, and color-wise was really, really definite and distinct. And then over time, we brought color into Grace. We've definitely brought color into Grace. I don't know. We haven't really brought a lot of Grace into Frankie, honestly, but Frankie's definitely had an influence on Grace. She's got print now. She never wore print, and now she does. And that's the kind of stuff I've been ramping up, over time, is more and more of the loosening up of Grace, So yeah.
You mentioned how the women's age plays into this in terms of like what stores you go to. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that a bit more?
Well, I didn't mean it like the age plays into the stores I go to. I just meant I wouldn't change their style up too radically because of their age, because I don't believe that it's real. I like to keep them as real as possible, and as imperfect as possible. So I think wait, say the question again. Say the question again.
You had mentioned something about, the kind of stores that you go to where you go to look for these kind of clothing. I didn't know if you meant like a Penny's or something like that.
Oh no. No. We go to like Grace has. I go to stores like when I'm shopping for a character. I like to think about what store would this character shop at? Mm-hmm. Where does this character go for the clothes? Which is why Frankie doesn't wear anything that anyone would recognize. For the most part, I get a ton of DMs and everything asking me where pieces are. I get a lot of Instagram reach out about jewelry, and a lot of people, like artists on Instagram, who find me and want to send me jewelry. And I get that a lot, and I use it all the time. I love it because that's the most unique I can get, And then Jane's just like, we make those shirts. Those are one of a kind. I get a lot of inquiry out with those too. Those are all one of a kind. because we make them here. And then her other stuff is like Ralph Lauren and St. John and Armani, and you know, it's nice, but she's like a nice, you know, she's a fancy lady. So yeah.
Now talk a bit about working with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. Do they have much input in, you know, what their characters will wear?
You know, they really respect the process and respect the job that I do, and trust me. You know, we got there. We didn't. I mean, it didn't take long. You know, they were like, there was a lot of talk and visuals and collaborating, and I brought them books. I still have them of my ideas for the characters. So it was definitely vetted with them before I even got the job. I had to go through that with them so that they were like, okay, we feel okay with this person. And after that, then we had our big fittings, and you know, the first fittings with Jane, it was like pretty immediate. We found her pretty immediately. I mean, that's my job. My job is to help the actor find their character, you know? So we are all just in service to the story. So I read a script and I'm like, you know, how do we make this realized for them? And how do we make that actor feel comfortable in this role? Right. So that's the goal. And, you know, sometimes it takes some time. I mean, it took a couple fittings with Lily until she was like, okay, I can feel this. And with Jane, it was after the first fitting. But yeah, they're really good. There's sometimes when Lily almost never says she doesn't want to wear something unless she doesn't like what it fits. You know, it's never like a look thing. Jane will sometimes be like, I don't feel this. Nope. And I was like, okay, so we'll just move on from that, you know? So, yeah.
Right. And working with the creators, Marta Kaufman and Howard Morris, what did they give you in terms of guidance that helped you figure out what it was you wanted to do?
You know what? Their characters were so well written. I knew who they were when I read it. I had to dig a little deeper for Frankie because I really wanted her to be a really unique soul. And, you know, ironically, I feel like that's been the character that I think that I get the most, you know, feedback on, the most like unique. I think people just haven't seen that before on, hi, I'm doing an interview. Okay. Yeah. So I did dig deeper with her. I had to like go and like really find these character references, you know, and I'm really happy I did. Like it always like that really until I found Agnes Varda and like Linda Roden, who's, you know, also one thing that I think is important about Grace and Frankie, and I don't always get asked this, but I think it's important to talk about, is that one of the things that I did with them is not make them old. You know, I didn't think about their age when I was thinking about who they were. I was thinking about who they were and how they'd express themselves through dress, you know, and through presentation to the outside world. And I think I was asked by another person, an interviewer another time, who do you look to for character reference for women on TV to look to for inspiration? I was like, there really was no one. There were no like seminal female characters over 50 that were the central characters, main characters in the story. Didn't exist. So I never thought about it. You know, I was like the only people that the last time there were like, besides Grace and Frankie, that there were those women that were older like that, it was like Golden Girls. And that really didn't happen. I mean, they looked like old ladies, you know, these guys don't look like old ladies, and I don't think they should. And I think that is very in keeping with the times, you know, and with people not being like done once they're, you know, over 50, over 60, over 70 now, vibrant, living, doing, being goofy, making mistakes, falling down, getting back up, starting their lives over. I had a woman, like, I've had people reach out to me like, this show, one woman said, this show gave me the strength to get out of an abusive relationship, you know, like, it's like kind of amazing. It's like really giving people a different perspective on growing older, you know, we look at it.
Well, it's an interesting point you made, because I think I was talking to somebody about this the other day. In fact, Estelle Parsons, who has been on your show, and
oh yeah, I love her.
Yeah, and at the age of 90 is still living independently and working
90?
frequently. Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. Wow.
I didn't mean to age her live on that.
No, I'm impressed. I think it's amazing.
But I make the point to say that you know, often we have an expectation about what it's like to be old, older. and often we see that represented in films or television. But you know, stuff like Grace and Frankie really does buck the tradition and buck the expectations of what life can be like after a certain age. So it's interesting that you thought about that in terms of your designs as well.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? It was thoughtless until I was asked about it. I never thought to make them older. Like I just didn't. I thought about. I don't know. I just never thought that way about. I don't think that way about people. I just think about who they are, and not what surrounds them, what they're supposed to be. You know, I'm just like I really just thought about their essence and not about their like age.
Well, even in real life, I mean, I see Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda around town a bit, and I mean, they don't look like the Golden Girls. I'll say that.
No, but they don't look like Grace and Frankie either.
No.
They have really different in like personal styles than on the show, you know. So
for your work, you've received 2 Emmy nominations as well as 2 Costume Designer Guild nominations. What has that recognition meant for you?
Oh, it's been so great. It's been amazing. I was really completely surprised by the first one. And so it's been so exciting. Like it's really nice to be recognized. It's really nice to be recognized by, you know, the Academy and then the shows that I'm in the category with. I'm just so like blown away that I'm, you know, in that grouping with them. And then the Costume Designers Guild, I mean, to be nominated by your peers is like, you know, one of the best things ever. And it's been really good. And it's like, I love the flowers and stuff that I get. But I do. No, it's just really nice. It's nice because we work really hard. I mean, costume designers, we work really hard. We work really long hours. It is not glamorous. You know, we are constantly schlepping and doing and giving and running and getting up at like 5 a.m. to come to fittings. And like, it's really makes it fun when something like that happens, you know?
Right. Now, have you started work on season 5 yet?
Yeah, we're on season 5. We're going to start shooting episode 11 of season 5 tomorrow.
Oh, wow. So you are deep in it, huh?
Yeah, we're almost done. We're all so sad. No one wants to leave this show.
Well, can you give us a little hint of what we can expect this time next year?
In the season? Mm-hmm. I can't remember where we left off, honestly. They all kind of mold together.
Right.
I'm trying to think of something that I could give you that wouldn't give away anything. Oh, I can tell you something. Okay. So I will say that there's a lot more time spent at Say Grace. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things happen in the work life for the ladies.
Okay,
and
well,
lots of pantsuits this season. Pantsuits.
To know. All right. Well, thank you very much, and congratulations on another season of Grace and Frankie. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.